Lauren is the VP of Revenue for Demodesk. She's got a background in finance, started a career at American Express. Before joining Demodesk, she was at Glassdoor as VP or Director of EMEA Sales. And she joined Demodesk last year, back end of November. Born and raised in San Francisco, lived in Paris, New York, and London, and 2 years in Aspen, Colorado, and in an attempt to be a ski bum. And in her time, she was actually top 25 in California at ski racing, so very impressive. But nowadays has turned her sporting prowess to tennis, a lot easier. I even injured myself at that. So Lauren is going to be talking about building a revenue team in a new era of work with the hybrid model, etc. Lauren, come and join.
Thank you. Right. I mean, just to set the record straight, I was like a ranked skier when I was like 7. It was not while I was trying to be a ski bum. That just didn't work out. So here I am back in the work world. But that was kind of inspiring because I would like to kind of dust off my skis and maybe get a chalet in the Alps this winter, work from there. And that all seems possible in today's world, except it's a little bit complicated. And that's what I'm talking about today, which is this new era of work that we're in, that obviously the pandemic has changed everything. We heard a little bit about hybrid office culture. I think everyone's kind of struggling with their own identity right now. Like, are we office first? Are we going back to the office? How are we sort of building a sales team? And it is really complicated. And you think about, like, how do I build a sales team in today's world when, maybe during the pandemic you dumped your office and you're all working remotely. I, for one, I'm building a team right now, and Demodesk is a meeting platform that allows people to work from anywhere. So sort of in an aspirational way, I had a moment where I thought, well, yeah, let's hire anyone, anywhere, and let's just hire the best talent. And in reality, I had to retreat from that thought because it's really, really complicated to hire people in different places and all of a sudden think about, how do we support them in different countries, and how do we give them benefits that matter? And so we moved from there to creating hubs. We created a hub in Portugal, not by design, but I do like to spend a lot of time in Portugal, so it was kind of nice. We built a hub here, and we also have an existing headquarters in Munich. So we really kind of changed our strategy and decided, okay, hey, let's find the best talent there and then build a remote culture around that. But it even gets more complicated in the hybrid world. Like, should we allow people to then go for 2 weeks and work from anywhere? And it turns out that in itself is rather complicated, and you could get yourself into a little bit of an HR mess if you don't have a policy built around, okay, what can I really allow my employees to do? What is the law? I have no idea, to be honest. I learned a lot in the past 6 or so months about visas and where people can work and what's acceptable. In fact, I spent my own time. I remember doing maybe a sales confidence event from Portugal at one point in time, and realized that I was actually extending my own personal time there, and I wasn't allowed to be there. So I had to get back into the UK pretty quickly because I am on a visa. So it is really, really complicated when you're trying to build a sales team in this remote world. So number one is having a policy and understanding who you're trying to hire. So I think when the pandemic started, there were a lot of companies that said, like, okay, we're remote first. We're dumping our offices and we're going to have studios. And like, what is a studio? What does that really mean for a sales team? How do you have a studio? And a lot of people kind of followed suit and then retreated from that because, of course, if you think about what is meaningful for people who are maybe a little more seasoned in their career, yeah, remote work is great. We don't want to take the tube anymore. We don't want to, we maybe want to be in our hoodies for at least a few days a week. But when you think about graduates who are coming out of school who've never actually experienced what it's like to be in an office and the energy of an office and meeting people, and their networks are on LinkedIn, but they've never actually met the people in person that are their connections. I mean, it's a different experience. So you really have to think about who you're hiring in the future and how to support them best and help them grow their careers and have really human experiences. So that was a really important moment for us as we thought about, okay, how do we build a culture? And we actually went to this remote hybrid model where we will have people coming into offices, and we'll have offices, not studios, but like real offices with real desks where people can go and work, especially in your sales development roles where people really need to have that kind of camaraderie. And hey, it's not easy to do that in a small space in your own house, and maybe not a house, in your own flat, and trying to just hit the phones hard and be by yourself and not have anybody else. So there are some real mental health issues that come about when you don't think about like how are we going to use our office. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, now that we have offices, we have to think about what that means. I've heard some kind of cringeworthy policies that are coming out of like, okay, pandemic's over, everybody back in the office. But the reality is the world is different now. And making everybody go back to the office. I mean, even having a cold in the office is different. Like, can you remember? I mean, there are plenty of times I've looked around the sales floor and pretty much like everybody had a cold, right? And everyone just kind of worked through it. And it was kind of gross. But we dealt with it. But now, I mean, imagine like you have a cold, someone else has a cold, like people are gonna freak out. Like it's gonna be bad. So we've got to figure out like sick leave and really how we kind of deal with some of these issues and how we become much more flexible. You saw sort of like consumer market becomes flexible. Amazon kind of drove flexibility in the consumer market. Employment needs to become flexible. And we have to figure out a way to become compliant and flexible at the same time and also support our people. So we're going to have distributed teams, even if we have an in-office culture. We're going to have people working from different places because we just don't know what the future looks like. And that means that we need to invest in technology that helps enable people and helps them learn and helps them be better at their roles. And you see a lot of, we talked about sales technology, heard a little bit about sales technology, and that's, I think a lot of the sponsors here are also in this ecosystem. And it's really important to figure out how do you manage people when you're not in an office? How do you actually manage and support people and have visibility into what's going on? And be able to, for example, we use our own tool to shadow meetings, and it makes it really easy for someone in Portugal. We actually have a rep today who's ramping in Madeira, so she's in our hub. She's allowed to be in Portugal. She's in Madeira. She chose like the island life, which is super cool. But she's able to be really connected with the team because she's able to shadow meetings all the time, and we give her a really easy playbook through which she's able to ramp quickly. So you've got to think about how do we deal with this and support people. So one, think about like as you build these policies for your company, think about who you're going to hire and who can really be remote, and then communicate a really strong policy around like what it really means to be remote, where you can work, how long you can work from, and check with your HR partners. It certainly isn't my area of expertise, but I learned a lot about it. And then also figure out how to support your people and enable your people and invest in sales enablement. It's one of the biggest markets right now, and it's growing quickly. And there's probably a lot to talk about, but I feel like I'm at the end or over my 7 minutes. I always go over the 7 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.